I thought it was pretty fun. There were a lot more people that showed up than I was expecting. I think everyone had a really fun time. We also found out that Miss Hoggart and Miss Pons was really good dancing. Maybe not so much, but it's great. The marketing project, Project Best, the marketing project. It's a team of marketing students. And they're working with It's a Wrap and Pam Spencer to create a marketing campaign and online presence for the deli. Oh yeah, deli with the 76 station. FBLA, 39 students who placed in the top 10 at regionals are going to go to state for multiple events. And our band had to put in like an audition tape to get selected to go to Disneyland, and they got selected, so they're going to go have a little fun trip. We also had our OSET team compete over the weekend, and it sounds like they did some pretty good times. A couple of my friends, they shaved off a lot of seconds, and so they did pretty good. Sounds like they've been improving. And I think the only one I think of is the boys basketball got fourth in state.
Okay. Fantastic. A lot of good stuff happening at the high school.
Yeah, it's busy, but it's really fun.
Yeah. The way we like you students. You're busy, you're engaged. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Great. Any questions for Hannah? All right. Thank you so much for coming, Hannah. Feel free to take off and get to your evening. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. We had no public comment registered. So we will move on to new business. We have a request from Ms. Warner, who's here.
Did you change the agenda because you skipped over spring?
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
Okay.
I'm just creeping right along. No, we did not change it. Hold on, Ms. Warner.
I'm surprised you're not to this.
Either I give you a favor or I didn't. I'm trying to find. Or it is.
I know.
Well,
About me.
yeah. On my report highlights, again, I'm gonna look to the, where we're at with the needs assessment and, for improving student success and achievement. Phase one, all completed, with the needs assessment. Phase two, the update there is that there has been a draft of the portrait of a graduate sent out to the community to get feedback community-wide. That's going well. We're getting pretty good feedback from them. That feedback will then come back to the committee, the steering committee. And we'll consider the input that we get from the community and look at what our draft is and come out with a final product to present to the board at the next board meeting. So, good. With the development of the continuous improvement plan, we have been working diligently on strategies to implement the goals that are outlined for us back here through the strategic planning process. And also when we look at our students of high needs and their performance, where they're at with student achievement and success, we've identified some gaps there that need to be addressed. So those are also going to be in the continuous improvement plan. And that plan will be completed by the end of this month. So we'll present it to the board at the next board meeting, not sooner. And then we'll submit it to the state for the integrated application to get all of our grant funding for all our programs, especially SIA. Then as far as the continuous improvement plan implementation, we look to the bold steps that were developed by the design team and have already been making moves to implement those bold steps. One of those has been to move forward with the bond proposal to address the facilities concern from the community. So that is in effect and moving forward. And then with the overall health and wellness, we heard tremendous feedback, a lot of feedback about the food and nutrition program here in the district. And we have completed our research. We've signed a contract with a food program coordinator and Scratch Foods. Malachi, did you get some of that? Yeah. Ooh. So we are, we're finalizing the purchase of equipment that we need in our kitchens to prepare scratch food. And we're looking to have this implemented right after spring break, so that we're serving in all three schools.
That is fast, that's amazing.
Well, they'll accommodate what we have
Sure.
with equipment, but we have a good connection with Curtis Restaurant Equipment in Springfield, and they're on government contract, so we're hopeful that we can get that equipment on quick order. We've already been talking with them, so they have a list, we have a list, and now we're processing that list with our food provider, which Chanel will be talking about at some point.
No worries.
And then, you see my activities that are going on there, what I didn't put on here because it didn't happen in February, but it will happen at the end of this week, is that I'll be meeting with our new elected representative, Representative Conrad, at the end of this week with the other Lane County superintendent, small district superintendent over here. And we'll be advocating for schools. So we invited him to come talk to us, so that he could hear what we feel we need in our schools. That's my report. Any questions on anything?
Karen, one of your bullets on here is Lane County workforce. So is that a particular group? That name itself doesn't ring a bell, but is that like connected Lane County or?
No, Lane County Workforce is a program out of Lane County, and they know they assess the work demands there, what's available in career demands in Lane County. And we went to a training there, Jenny, myself, and Amy Guerra, went through this training, and they presented their model to us, and we're now engaged with them in developing a career fair and a job fair. So
Here at the school or?
here,
Okay.
It's tentatively scheduled for April 26th.
so yeah, big stuff. That's a lot of working, but we met with them. We had a meeting with those folks that lead in those two areas, and career development and career placement.
Okay.
And they are working with us. We're now partnering with them on preparing programs for our kids to see what careers look like out of high school,
Awesome. Love that.
even in high school.
Yeah, and the other thing that is happening is that Nicole, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking the organization name, but was at this meeting as part of it. She is connecting with the folks in our chamber, thank you, Chamber of Commerce, and to kind of help them also, with the new generation of employees and how to do outreach and how, to draw people in, to set up applications, set up the hiring practice. So that's also a benefit to us that she's reaching out in that way on our students' behalf. Just because it's a new generation of employees and what that looks like.
I don't know how the word got out there about our portrait of a graduate, but in the portrait of a graduate, we're talking about going from school to work and being work ready, college ready, life ready. And that survey was picked up by some folks that are in this kind of workforce, and I've had some feedback from them. They're like, wow, this is
Positive.
really great. Yeah, really, nice work, that's what they said. So I didn't send it to them, but I don't know how they got it. But it's out there. So,
All right, thank you for that.
any other questions?
Okay, now I think I'm on to new business. I don't think I missed anything else. Okay, Ms. Warner, do you want to talk about your request to take the Spanish kids to Costa Rica?
Certainly. I want to apologize for my handwriting. I hope you were able to read.
We did fine.
Very clearly. I also have some fancy color brochures, we will look at them, I got them in the mail on Monday, so we can put them in the application, but thank you. So, yeah,
This is the tour company, right?
this is through the tour company that I traveled with before, this will be my fourth tour with students, if approved. I decided I would like to go back to Costa Rica, with a more language-based tour. The previous two times we went to Costa Rica was more, like, we're in a Spanish-speaking country, but having more adventures rather than having like a language immersion, designed to the tour. So this would have classroom time every day, followed by activities that relate to the classroom, vocabulary and activities. It's similar to the one we just did last June to the Dominican Republic, which is also language immersion based. And I just think that the kids, it's a little bit more expensive, but only by a couple $100, but I think that the kids got so much more out of the experience, like on educational level. And they were able to connect more closely with the communities we were in. And so I just like my future tours, I want them to be more language immersion based. And yeah, and I thought it would be fun to go back to Costa Rica and try it there. So most of the kids, my classes know I've gone to Costa Rica before and have asked about that. So I thought it was good to go back to. Yeah, so.
So it was Dominican Republic that we went to.
It was a
last
more
time.
recent one, yeah.
Okay, and they did a service project.
There was a service project part of that, yeah. So each country has like different things available.
That they offer.
Yeah, and so.
So not necessarily a service project here, but more time spent really trying to get into the language.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of see how the itinerary is broken down. There's like there's still some like ecological kind of components.
Yeah.
As Costa Rica is kind of known for their like national parks and like conservationism and stuff like that. So yeah, there isn't a service component available in Costa Rica, but I think it'll still be a good language immersion. Absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did like that. I would like to go back to the Dominican again at some point too. It would be really cool to get to do more service stuff.
Well, we can keep swapping it up.
Yeah.
They will not object.
Yeah.
Corey, how many kids are you looking to take?
I mean, there's really no particular limit. It comes to like just how much interest there is and who can afford to go. So in the past, my groups have been anywhere between 6 to 12. I think was my largest. So I would love to have at least 6. At 6, I get to travel for free, doing all the, like chaperoning and stuff, but it's still free.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, every 6 more, you get another free chaperone, as part of like the tour company. So, I mean, there's really no limit. I would love, I think a group of like 8 to 10 is kind of a nice size. There's like a little variety of people who have different friends in there and stuff, but it's not a huge group. I don't know if I'm really mentally prepared to take a huge group, but I would do it if everyone signed up. Yeah, and so another thing that I'm gonna offer this time that will maybe help with getting more kids enrolled is because of COVID and because I have a small group go to the Dominican, I've been collecting cans and bottles for years and haven't spent much of that money yet. And so I have enough saved up to do some scholarships this time. So I think I could do like 4 $500 scholarships or like 2 $1,000 scholarships or something. So I kind of want to work with Jenny to see how we can kind of decide kids who enroll, who should receive that, like based on financial need.
What's the cost per kid?
It's roughly $4,000 if they sign up now, and then there's every once in a while it will increase as we get closer to the date. So right now there's in the next month or two, by the end of April, if they sign up, there's $100 discount for like early enrollment. And so that's a small savings, and then it goes up from there. So
I have one other question. So do they have to be like through Spanish 1? Is there, or is it just kind of like, if you're willing to come and immerse yourself in this culture, this language, like.
Yeah, I haven't put a restriction on it. So far, all the students have gone, who have gone, have taken at least Spanish one with me. Like, I think part of traveling to a foreign country with a teacher you don't know would be kind of unusual or scary maybe for kids. But technically I open it to the school. I put it in the announcements, so really it's technically open. But yeah, most kids want to have like at least a little bit of Spanish, I think, before they consider going to a Spanish speaking country. So, but yeah, it's open really.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's all my question.
Anything else? Okay, then the request is because it's out of district, and way out of district, we do need to approve the travel request. So I'll need a motion for that.
I motion to approve the travel.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions on that motion? No, but will you come do another presentation for us?
Oh,
Yeah.
like this is
Yeah. I appreciate that. And tell me, we'll do a grant from CEF for at least $500.
Oh.
Just email me.
Okay, that's amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right, all in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. You're
Yeah.
welcome to stay and you're welcome to get to your evening.
I'm in- Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, nice meeting you too. All right, budget development assumption. Mike, you want to walk us through what we got, or do you want Chanel to do it since people want to do
I think I've been clear enough. I'll try and see if she thinks I need to have her help.
it? Okay.
In the first bullet there, you can see that the ADMW has increased a little bit for us. But the budget has decreased if we're looking at roll-up costs. The 9.9 million is about 400 million shy of what it would cost to roll up all services for the district, for the state and for us. So that amounts to about a $400,000 decrease in state school funding for us a year. So on the third bullet there, you'll see that we have an ending fund balance of 1.3, and we held that 8% because we didn't know what the cliff was going to look like in 24-25, and in the next biennium at 9.9, we have earmarked funds in that contingency balance to cover that gap. Now, 24-25, we're not really certain about that one. We do have bargaining coming up at the end of this 23-24. And, we'll just have to hold on to what we have for a little bit and try to make it through the biennium, but at $400,000 to 500,000 for each of those 2 years of what is the gap that we're looking at. So in total, almost $1 million in the next biennium. So that would wipe out the contingency if we were to cover full staff and programs for 2 more years, which we can't do. We will have to have a minimum. The board likes 6 to 7%, but you absolutely cannot operate without 5% in your contingency. That's your startup costs. And then we look down to the where we're planning to really kind of tighten some things up, and going through COVID and with the emergency relief funds, we brought in some staff to help support that. Our plan was to then move away from ESSER when ESSER goes away and bring that staffing into SIA and the title funding. So we're working to that now. We're progressing to that now with our staffing plan. And so we'll see how that all comes out. But you may have been hearing it in the news, reading it in the papers, or in the articles that have been sent to you that other districts are already into personnel cuts going into this next year. I would say that is because of the choices they made in budgeting their ESSER funding, and that really funding came in. And we were specifically looking at personnel and not one-time capital improvement project. So it's helping us now. And yeah. Lane ESP, by the way, you see them mentioned here at the bottom, they are also going to be cutting funding. All resources are going to get hit at that 9.9, all programs. And there we go, so we're starting out with the 8% contingency. By the end of 24, we'll know where we're going in 24, 25. By spring, by spring. What I do?
Good.
Did I miss anything?
No.
Wow. I know my stuff. I've been learning a lot.
Very trainable.
I have been. I take a lot of pride in it.
All right, any questions on the budget assumptions? Okay, next, item, discussion. We are in a month where we need to set a meeting date for the executive session for Mike's evaluation. We have sent out the superintendent's standards with the rating to the leadership team for a 360-degree feedback component. We've not done that with Mike before. So what we'll get back is an anonymous, well, anonymous because it's got a composite score, and then the compile of comments. So Marilyn's helping compile all that for us. So we asked to get all of that back by March 17, which I believe is not this Friday, but it's next Friday. So I was wondering if March 22nd, hold on, I'm getting my calendar out. It's in 2 Wednesdays, if folks are available for that evaluation date. If not, then we would probably want to wait till after spring break and hit on April 5th. I first start with Wednesdays because we normally started, but we can do other days too. Ideally Wednesday. Okay. Okay. So we'll wait. Okay, Tim, how are you looking on March 22nd?
I'm good.
Okay, all right, why don't we set March 22nd at 6 p.m. Request 6:15. 6:30, so you're not rushing?
I don't mind 6:15, I'm just at the high school, but
Okay.
I
Okay,
got distracted.
absolutely.
Well, it's already been minutes. I saw that. No.
6:15, March 22nd. Please put that in. All right. And Mike will also have his self-assessment, which he normally provides for us. He will have that for us as well. And be providing that in person. So. Any questions on that?
Far less complicated.
I know. In person will be wonderful. So. Okay, all right. Trustee reports. Anybody want to, Mike, do you have anything you want to share over the last month? Any highlights? You can. Just turn that in.
I went on vacation 2 days after the last meeting, and I got home yesterday. 5 weeks of
I could see it.
termination from the Shire, 5 weeks. I found out what the 150-year California storm looks like, the snow and rain and hard winds. We had a good trip. We went in Arizona and stuff, but that's all I did. It was fun, had a good trip, but next year I'm not going 4,000 miles on my truck.
Yeah, I mean, I went to watch the boys basketball playoffs and the girls basketball playoffs, and just doing lots of stuff with Malachi. Like, he's been pretty busy. We went to the school the other day, so with the students and their vote, the bonds and
The PAC meeting.
their PAC meeting, yes. And yeah, just supporting them and all the fun.
Perfect.
And
Two items for me, February 16th, I spent a good part of the day in Mrs. Kuhnhausen's class, 3 classes at the middle school, where each one had Goldilocks on the and it was amazing as to some of the tactics that they took to find her guilty or not guilty, depending upon which side the students were on, and some of the things that they did and didn't do. It was very interesting. Mrs. Kuhnhausen threatened to make me a witness next year. We'll see. March 7th, yesterday was the Lane ESV meeting. And it wasn't the most exciting. The two things that I can think of are, one, they're hiring a consultant to work with their executive team. And Superintendent Skirdo mentioned on one of the bills that's currently in the legislature is that there's an exemption for economic reporting for school board members of small districts, 1,400 students or less, which means we may not have to subject ourselves to the economic report. Are you?
I don't know how that would pass in time to exempt the first year. Like, please keep following through on the guidelines until we hear from that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. Okay. Right.
Me, I've also gone to a couple of the playoff games for basketball. And it's spring sports season, so I spend most afternoons out in the field, which is why I apologize, I'm so dirty. I was moving dirty equipment around out on the softball field. So that is our day-to-day, and we just have our first official non-league game on Monday. So it's brand new, kind of. Did I learn? The pants have arrived, the jerseys have not. I have we're doing like a whole interesting new thing for us. The pants made it, the jerseys have not made it, and all of the apparel showed up. So it was it's been a week. Figure out.
Did you get your equipment from, did Nike send it to brand source and brand source send it?
It's a whole situation we're working through.
Yeah.
It was a very good learning lesson for me. So,
Are you gonna go have uniforms? Are we just gonna play like a?
we'll use last year's.
Okay.
We used last year's uniforms and save our new ones, maybe for the next game, we'll see. So thank you to the boosters, though. The boosters very generously gave us $2,500 in gear this year, so we're
Which I very happily took to Kansas house. Because
good. We're very
it
thankful.
came to my house,
We're very thankful for that.
so there's some pop.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll get this.
Yeah,
So that's it.
Fantastic. Debbie?
Oh, aside from taking softball stuff to Kansas House, I've been to 2 PAC meetings, one online that I thought I was about like wrong day, but that was fine. And then confession, and then just planning for the booster option on May 6th. That's it. I'm alive. Oh, not a lot.
Not a lot. There's a lot going on.
I know.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
A lot of hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, besides IRC, that I read with kindergarten on Fridays, PAC meetings. So I think I mentioned to everybody in front of you, there's a statement that we've drafted from the school board for the voters pamphlet. If you agree with that, would like to endorse that, option 1, you can hand that to me after the meeting. If you would like to be on the list for the PAC meeting, let me know. There are, switching gears, with what all of the different bills that are in the legislature, there are a lot of nickel and dime bills. So what I would recommend, the best idea
is to keep tabs on the OSBA website, there's a legislative highlights updates one. They will let us know in that each bill that is scheduled for a hearing. It changes every day. But if the bill that is potentially gonna start requiring more requirements of our district, that none of them are coming with money, from what I can read, then I would be emailing out the representatives. And what I need to do, just so that you have it, if it's helpful, I can send you an email of here's the email list for all of our representatives, because our school district, as I'm sure most of you have probably seen, it's not just one House and one Senate, like our district is divided up weird. So if that's helpful, I'll send you the email list, and then you just like, when you see that bill is up there, just an email in your own words of like, this is not helpful for our district, it doesn't come with funding. It most likely is gonna start restricting us, it takes options off the table for what we do with our money. So that is probably the biggest thing, if you just put a tickler every Monday on to look and see, and send an email and let them know those are not helpful for us.
What are we, 3 House members and 2 senators?
Yeah, there's 5. But you can, if you've got the email list, you just pop all 5 in and it's one email. It's like, please vote no, please protect us from this insanity. So. Mike, do you have any updates from COSA on legislative stuff that you want us to look out for?
I would say this is the heaviest term for law, for public law, that they have, so Morgan Allen and Republican for PA has. Attorney for PA, so this is kind of needed.
It has felt like that, like, yeah, Tim, I know you follow legislative stuff as well. When you're reading through all those, did it not feel like, oh, it's like 2 times more bills?
I got lost.
Yeah,
I-
I'm glad that you said that, because I was feeling a bit overwhelmed with how many there are. So,
The fear is that some of those aren't going to get much attention and they're just going to get passed. And they have huge implications because
Yeah.
they're not really well planned out. Bill, so, that's the fear, but then.
one of the bills that I was reading through the highlights on was gonna start requiring more reporting. Because they feel like school districts are not held accountable. And I would just, I'm sure COSA's all over this. I would love for somebody to actually put them all in a room and walk through your 900 reports that you submit every year. Maybe it's 400, but that's not much of an exaggeration. And actually make them answer. Yes, we actually use data from that. Oh, I didn't even know you reported that anymore. Maybe we can stop requiring that. I don't know how they're using all of the data that we submit and then say that we are not held accountable. That kind of infuriated me.
Can I share a very interesting piece to that?
Yes.
I attended a Zoom conference several years ago where the state people from the Department of Education. And they shared with us that when legislative committees request information, that triggers the state report. The state report then stays inconsistent, it stays forever until that committee request says we don't need it anymore. Guess what happens? The committee dissolves and they don't make that request. The report still is required. And believe it or not, there are at least 3 that I know of report that we report on that just go to an empty spot, the Department of Education, because the original governing body that requested the report no longer exists. It's really, it was just a weird.
It's happening.
It's just
It's
crazy.
happening.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my part of your daily life.
All that, there's like. Two over there and. All the reports that go in the ODE, and that's unbelievable, and the biggest, well, we went through the audit, and that's a 5-year audit, every 5 years, and. That's a lot, I mean, it took about 3 months to get that information together for that application and that review. And then, we have the ELD review that comes up, we got enrollment reports, if any requests, and it just goes right on down all the title reports. The IA report is a monster. the integrated application, that's big. It's, I don't know how districts are going to get that one in. If you're a small district, and you don't have any help in your office. That's great, I mean, that's a huge report, and it's required. The SIP plan, the engagement process, reporting all the data out on it is, and then setting goals with it. Pretty consuming. I just can't, I can see that some districts aren't gonna get that in. Just saying, it was the same process with the SIA application when we first did that. And I mean, there was 2/3 of the districts that didn't get the SIA application in on time. But it'll be the same situation. But anyway, that's the work. We're required to put it in, or you start pulling your funds, or they hold your funds. They don't reimburse you. So, there's no choice about it.
Okay, well, if you can, keep a list, or look out for those bills that will take away our discretionary funding. An email, I will get those emails in your box soon. Okay, all right, nothing more from the trustees. So our last item, our professional development, the book that we've been reading. So, we're on the social sciences chapter, right? Literacy and writing with social sciences. What did people take away from that? Any thoughts? Okay, I forgot my book the last two meetings, so this morning I put it in when I thought about it. My overall thought, like, the book is selling me on the approach that just the very basics of more reading and writing, and especially when it's content rich, high vocabulary. Less worksheets, less posters, right, less of those kinds of things, and just have them read more. How is your, like, both your leadership team and your teachers taking this approach? How are you implementing this?
Well, as you know, we changed our schedules, and so we extended our class periods, which increases reading and writing in the class, especially in language arts classes. And that was our first move on increasing reading and writing. And then the school-wide writing plans that they put in, and are working to increase the writing across the day, across the curriculum. So in literacy, that's the work. And then you have the supports that we put in place to assist if they need more guidance or instruction in reading for reading for learning. So
Like I should probably notice, but what was the writing?
So there are several different strategies to increase writing, but when you increase writing, you increase reading, because you have to read to write. You have to read your writing. And so the strategies are, you get your quick writes. And for other type of writing activities that you incorporate in your lessons. So we'll say that I'm going to be lecturing for 15 minutes in front of class. And I'll turn to my class and say, okay, here's a quick write. I want 3 sentences on the main ideas that I just expressed to you. And what did I say that supports those main ideas? Okay, we got 8 minutes and we'll get back to it. It's a quick write. Or a exit ticket. Exit tickets are great ones. We have okay, here was the topic today. Here was the objective. Real quick, give me 3 sentences on it. Give me a paragraph on it. That's your exit ticket out the door. When I see it, you go. You bring it back when you get here or something like that. Or, that's the exit ticket out the door. I mean, there are just several different strategies like that. But in music is literacy. And so when kids are in music, they can write about music. Several different aspects of music. But you have to read music. It just hits your senses from another angle of the brain, and it increases your literacy capacity. So to incorporate writing in there, the senses are already open up. So let's get to it. And, but that's the kind of stuff that can happen throughout the day. And then you have your regular writing activities. The number one strategy to increase writing for literacy is note taking. Because when you start taking notes, you write. You're in a habit of taking notes in your classroom. And your teachers are telling you, okay, get your notebook out, or let's get your note-taking forms out, and we're going to go through this. I want you to name the main idea and the supporting factors of what we're going to be talking about here, the supporting statements. And then they'll talk about the closure. They can turn to the partner and talk about the closure, and then think through what they wrote and write a closing statement to it. There's lots of other strategies, and that's what they're bringing into the schools. Anything I missed on some of the supports for literacy?
I would just add in too, it as a tool. I think you touched on it really nicely, Mike, but just as a tool, the investment that the teams have put into the tools for writing, and so the ELA curriculum and how that's supported not only with reading, but the writing aspects of that too, just as a tool. Yeah.
And I already keep them going. Where
We implemented the new ELA in all three schools this year.
The curriculum.
so we'll see some, it'll make an impact this year. We'll see it in the results this year. I-Ready and ELA curriculum are hand in hand, and we're trying to catch up fast. We want to catch up and move above. And so we're looking forward to seeing the results. You see the data that's in your board packet in the principal's reports. And they've already increased by 8% in literacy, 4% in math from the beginning of the year to this first benchmark last month. So at that rate, what we're going to see on that third benchmark is going to be pretty exciting. We're excited to see that.
Yeah, last year the schools did report significant increases, and they were closing the gap that we were starting to see as a result of the homeschooling, the being at home through COVID. So they're expecting to see even more.
Well, the more proficient you get, the tougher to get
Sure.
the increases, right? So last year when we were bringing them back in, there was a ton of gaps they were missing, and we were able to get. So we took the first baseline assessment on there and got to see how many and how large these gaps were in their reading and in math also. So with read write, we could address that right away, wherever they were and whatever they were missing, wherever they were at. And so the progress between that baseline and the first benchmark was huge, because these are things they didn't know and then experience, and we got it from right away. So they were able to demonstrate that. But after practicing it and getting to the third benchmark, I mean, that was like, okay, now 70% of our kids have moved into this proficiency area at grade level. And this year, I don't know that we're going to see huge gains like that, but an 8% gain is a big gain. I mean, 5% is big in growth. And so we're trying to keep up with their grade level standards, master their standards, and what the percentage of what they're proficient at with those standards. And I-Ready helps us do that. And that's what we're looking at. And this benchmark will tell you there's a percentage of the kids that are already at the end of their school year proficiency levels to go into their next school year. And that percentage continues to grow while the lowest performing group continues to shrink. So we're moving them up into the at level or just below, one grade level below. And then that group that started out at grade level or one grade level below is now moving up into at grade level work. So it's a science, and it's really effective. it's had a huge impact on our kids.
So can I ask a question about, you said we implemented new ELA curriculum. So is that something where it is consistent through K through 12? Is it something that is rolling over now? So there's not like maybe a difference between what is being taught at the elementary, middle?
Yeah.
And how is that what we're?
I can speak a little bit to that, if that's okay. Yeah, so we went through a process last year similar to what you're seeing in my board report for math adoption, which looks back here, so we're doing a lot of review, but we go through K-12 and we do a needs assessment. We are looking at state approved adoption materials, so these are all vetted through the state criteria. And then we looked at really bringing that down a notch on what do Creswell students need, where do we see those areas of deficit, whether it's using the iReady data or the SBAC data, and then getting teacher feedback. And so, yes, we're using those to fidelity. Those have been implemented this fall. And we're still going through even today, we had staff at the secondary level partaking in a professional development opportunity for the ELA part of it, the English and Language Arts section, and we'll do the same thing with math. So we continue throughout the year, and that's part of the process of adoption of providing the professional development. And so as they onboard with the new curriculum, the assessment measures and how that all aligns and the tiered supports, they're getting that continuously throughout the year. But in addition, if there's questions around how do I implement or have this part of the curriculum implemented to fidelity, they have an opportunity to engage in that dialogue with the different curriculum teachers and professional development providers.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. And we'll stick with that. So we'll continue to build and grow with that curriculum for the next now 7 years.
So I'm kind of new, so I may not know all of the things you guys know. And I think Mike went over a lot of this with me in like a 4-hour period. So you may have probably filled me in this, but so we did this for ELA and you're saying now math. So will that be something that we started this year and going to next year, and will we see an increase hopefully in our data and be meeting the standards for math? Is that where we're headed?
That is next, we're adopting.
We're in
this year.
This, okay.
Correct. Yeah, we're in the process of adoption. You'll hear more about that. Our high school has a different set of criteria that they're looking at that may pause their adoption to waiting, or maybe do a pilot.
Okay.
Pilot would be sampling the program, but yes, K8 will be looking at adoption. You should see that on your board packet the next month or two. Once a final decision is made, we're just narrowing that down, and then that goes into practice next fall.
So does that potentially at the high school level open up options with this new curriculum to have maybe more advanced classes if the students to get that?
That's the conversation we're having right now with your team. Yeah, so yes, that's the hope. Yeah, there's a lot of career connections, opportunities for advancement, but we're also looking how that impacts, because we're looking at the K-12 continuum. And so opportunity to accelerate or differentiate instruction for even our 5th graders. We start to see that actually at all grades, but 5th grade, we really start to parse that out. And then middle school, there's options for students getting algebra credits. And then as they go into high school, that really starts to expand. Yeah.
Now 4 periods, right? It changes, our kids can actually have this pre-calculus and AP stats
Yeah,
much quicker than they've ever been able to take.
Yeah, and a lot of the
I
direction
know
is
that.
this year, yeah. A lot of the curriculum has options now that are new to our team that have an accelerated version. And so, for example, if we have a student coming in out of 5th grade, they move into middle school and they're showing a higher level of skills, we can do an accelerated program. And so several of the programs that we're looking at offer an accelerated. It's like a 2 in 1 year, so they can get their 7th and 8th graders, whatever the combo is, but they can fast track it. So that's on the menu of options as we're looking at these different curriculum choices.
great. Yeah, I think that creates a lot of flexibility for admin to kind of figure out how they can develop those classes and those selection options for the need of the students in that grade specifically as they advance. So it's almost like it's molding and fitting to the students' needs, and I like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's great.
When there really hasn't been a curriculum in place that at the lower levels in a way that are pushing the kids to that accelerated pace.
So if we
And so
had a
look-
kid that they were just staying at that kind of baseline of what we had to offer, is that kind of how?
Go through the motions, but curriculum isn't set up to accelerate them to a higher level of math.
We have an 8th grade teacher on that vein who is teaching high school. High school curriculum basically comes down to the middle school so that she can then teach that group of students the high school curriculum. So that they are getting creative, but it really is a piecemeal of how can we best support students, and our staff are doing an exceptional job of that. But if we had some better tools to help accelerate or differentiate, that's gonna really enhance instruction.
I would say, because I've got my daughter who's exceptional with math, she has made it through every class that the high school offers now, so she's, 2 or 3 years ahead of where seniors would normally if they did one math class per. And the only reason she did is because all the math teachers literally worked together to make sure that they got her and moved around. So it's with an extra focus and a concerted effort that she made it through, not because the system made it really easy for a group of kids that wanted to challenge themselves to do that.
Right, so essentially the tools in the curriculum didn't support it, it was
Yeah, it's
essentially
because,
passed to the teachers now.
yeah, and because we have teachers that care in a small district where she's not anonymous, right? I mean, so that's the benefit of what we have.
Oh, definitely. Alvin was the same way when he was here, but this would have been great for him, so I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah.
These options are here for the future students.
Yeah, awesome. Any other questions from the book, the curriculum? You're teaching us a lot, Mike. We appreciate the book. I'm appreciating the book. I should say that. Yeah.
I think the takeaway from the social sciences is how to integrate writing into the social sciences, not just reading about history and events and things, but then putting it into writing, what you learn and putting it into writing and having that more literacy focus in that rather than the historical times on their own. You can memorize historical times and events, but to have to go in and work with them and write about it is much more meaningful. And so that's it, having that integrated into social science or any other subject area. It's great, but it's a natural fit in social sciences to write about historical events.
Yeah, Mr. Martin has done a fantastic job of that in his classes, what I see with my kids going through. He's always making those kids right.
I think the thing about that
Which is
approach
fantastic.
is that it is really preparing them if they do some post-secondary college, because that is what you do in college. So a lot of times students leave high school and they get to college and they're not used to processing in that way where it is, they're writing about the things they're learning. I mean, even my business classes, I mean, we're writing all the time, I felt like. And I just think that this is going to set them up for success if they do decide to do that traditional route, and even if they decide a non-traditional route, just because the processing that takes place. So I don't know, I think it's a really unique and interesting approach. I think it's good.
Going back a couple chapters, because I was trying to remember if I saw my kids do anything around it, but one of the literacy chapters was talking about even in elementary school, teaching kids to write in your book, right? Like you have a journal that you get to take home. That's not a book that's yours year after, but it's annotating and learning how to annotate what you read when it comes to literature. Like, this is the main point of this paragraph. This is the main point of this paragraph. And making them think both they're reading everything and then they're taking away with the main idea, like stepping into it. Like, I love that, because when you get into college, what are you doing? You're marking up your books and trying to have that main idea rise up off the page at you. And for some kids, that is a brand new concept. So I love that this book talked about how that is something from the very beginning we teach. So.
Teachers that make their students get a notebook out or a journal and take notes in class. It's a pain. I mean, the kids. But man, I'll tell you what, they learn so much from that when they get into a program, wherever it's at. And they are learning new material and they know how to take notes. It's pretty, they think back to those times when that teacher made them get out their notebook and start and for their note page and start taking notes and identifying the main points and the supporting statements or factors of that main point. It does put them up way in. They don't know it right then. They figure it out.
All right. Any other talk? Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, we have our next executive session, March 22nd.
At 6:15.
At 6:15.
Sorry.
All right. Meeting adjourned.